Hey, life is how it is, and YouTube in general. So, had to watch their video again, and it was really good. Oh, my phone just finished charging. Alright. It was really nice seeing someone else who had similar views. No, mine are not, exactly the same, of course, and I have certain, probably different spiritual beliefs compared to a lot of the other anti-statists on YouTube. But, yeah, I guess I'll just launch into my little note card here, because there's just too much for me to cover for me to just remember off the top of my head. But yeah, it was a really great video. Anyways, you're talking about rule utilitarianism, and saying, you should adopt rules that will basically maximize social welfare, which is the greatest good for the greatest number of individuals. So I would agree, of course, with that, except I would say that my interpretation is slightly different. Some people say, some people who are act-utilitarians would say, I don't see why you wouldn't engage in the action that, that whatever benefited you or something, or even if you were to go on a case-by-case basis, say, I don't see, suppose you assume a state, right, and then you go, okay, the state should do this in this case, or do this in that case. But I think, to me, it's more like the reason to go with or one of the reasons to go with rule utilitarianism is because we don't always know what will be actually for the best or not. I think, to me, it's like the rules, you adopt certain rules based on, okay, eventually I'm going to get to a scenario where I can't tell, and I'll have to toss a coin or something. Instead of tossing a coin, I'll choose to follow a certain rule, and hopefully the gist of it is, of course, the belief that that set of rules will be then what turns out, hopefully, or what has a higher chance of increasing the social welfare or maximizing it. Let's see. Another thing is consequentialism. I wanted to talk a little bit on that, as I'm a bit of a consequentialist. My particular view, I guess, is slightly more technical, but it's still just a modification, I guess. My particular value is a Pareto efficiency. At least that's what I tend to value a lot. So making at least one person better off without making anyone else worse off. Unfortunately, even in mainstream econ textbooks, they'll say that, and then later they'll say, "Oh, therefore we mean this," and it doesn't. The two aren't always connected. Like they'll say it's the same thing as if the gains to the gainers are greater than the losses to the losers. But and then the reasoning goes, therefore they could compensate the losers such that everyone is at least as well off after they do that. But for some strange reason, when people make or certain economists make policy prescriptions, they won't actually say, therefore make the people who gained compensate the people who lost. They'll just say, well, it's possible that they could, therefore the policy is good. I just think that's really lame. So that's not my view. My view would be, at least one person is better off without making anyone else worse off. And if someone's made worse off, then they would have to be compensated such that they are at least as well off according to their own values. So it's still including the subjective theory of value in there. Let's see. Oh yeah, I would say the certain instances where I actually would not necessarily favor Pareto efficiency is where you're undoing a previous injustice. So obviously there's more to it than just Pareto efficiency. There's other normative values that come along with it. And yeah, that's also that's also a view of mine. I don't believe there's one single moral you can uphold the highest all the time. I think sometimes you could reach moral dilemmas where some of your morals are in conflict, and then you have to choose which one, or you have to strike a balance between the two. But in reality, we have more than two moral values, right? So therefore, we always seek an optimization, just like in anything else in life. Well, at least that's my view, and that's always what I do too. That's what I try to do in practice. What else was I going to say? Oh yeah, so to undo a previous injustice, suppose someone, whatever, a robber stole your TV, or a burglar stole your TV. Now, if you say, well, then try to get his TV back, then some people, depending on how you interpret it, you would say, oh no, because once he has a TV, that's it. Trying to then get it back would be even more costly, and so why would you do that? But I don't believe in that. I definitely think to undo a previous injustice it's good. So likewise with the state, I don't believe they're legitimate. So if they were to just go away, that'd be great. But also, of course, I believe we can't have a stateless society. But I'm not going to get into that here. I have enough people that know my views on that. I might make a few more videos on that, actually, just because I want to start contributing more to the YouTube community. Anyways, another thing, this thing I was reading by Milton Friedman or not by Milton Friedman, but it was a quote of Milton Friedman's that someone posted on the Mises website, Mises.org, on one of the blogs. They quoted him. It was actually an anti-Friedman article, but once I read the Friedman quote, I was like, that makes a lot of sense to me. And then also, if you go to libertarianism.org, that's where the quote was from, actually, in the presentation that they have, Milton Friedman doing it there. And he talks about intolerance and different things like that. Anyways, he says the reason he is a libertarian, this is also has come to be a large reason why I am one too, is because we don't know and can't know all the time what's best for someone else. And that's just another reason, I guess, rule utilitarianism makes sense to me, I suppose. Because you want to have a certain set of rules that you believe are going to be the things that will tend on net balance when you're unsure, to then make everyone else as well off as possible, or everyone as well off as possible. And also, I was watching a presentation recently by David Friedman, and he had a great quote, and I didn't quote him exactly, but basically he was talking about why he supports the stateless society or libertarian society, free society, whatever you want to call it, on economic grounds and not so much on moral grounds. And he said, because economics is, basically the science of it, and why it gives us a certain framework to answer certain questions. And so that, just because a policy, if it happened to maximize social welfare, that in itself wouldn't always mean he supports it, because he has other moral values. It's just that he said that he doesn't know a good argument of to say what is right and what is wrong, and try to convince someone based on that. So therefore, he tends to talk mostly about the economic things, and that's kind of my thing as well. There's certain things I think are bad and good and right and wrong, but as far as objective argument, I don't think there are objective arguments for it or against any particular set of rules. And trying to convince someone is basically, you're just going to try to, like you said, for some people I think you do have certain values in common, but for the most part, it's just people believe there's different means that are going to be the most effective in achieving those ends. Because we all have a large consensus, more or less, on what we value and what we want the world to look like. Another thing, Mises. I wanted to take a quote from Mises because this was really great. Just like a light bulb went off my head. I remembered it when I was watching your video. Just came back to me. So I got the link here, and the quote goes, what is it? First of all, this was from a Mises.org thing, I think by David Gordon on Mises, and he says, first of all, it must be realized that moral codes are human things. As Mises wrote, quote, the notion of right and wrong is a human device, end quote. Furthermore, moral codes, like all human devices, have a purpose for which they are made. And then here's the Mises quote. All moral rules and human laws are means for the realization of definite ends. There is no method available for the appreciation of their goodness or badness other than to scrutinize their usefulness for the attainment of the ends chosen and aimed at. Now, I wouldn't be that as extreme as Mises there. I obviously do value certain things, and I imagine you do too, and therefore that's why you have real utilitarianism. So I just thought that was interesting, though, how like Mises' take was like really value free, I guess, But yeah, we all have certain values and we all agree on certain things, and that's why a lot of times, when I'm trying to convince someone of something, we usually do have a lot of the same ends in common, and so I'm just saying like, oh, those are very expensive ways to do that. Let's do a less expensive way, or or a way that also has other benefits that go along with it too, or something, Let's see. So Mises' view also, I guess, was that, I'm not sure if this says this in the article or if I read it somewhere else or something, but alright, says the sound utilitarian does not say the purpose of a moral code should be social utility, but rather the purpose of moral codes are and always have been ultimately social utility. In this way, utilitarianism, strictly speaking, is more about meta-ethics than ethics. I don't even know what that means because I'm not really into this philosophy stuff. But I just thought that was really interesting. And yeah, like you're also saying that your morality is assumed, not necessarily assumed best. It's just that people happen to agree. That's another thing I tell people as well. Some people always say, "Oh, so well." I guess they try to pigeonhole me. But even then, like, I never really considered my, particular set of moral views, like, super important and to push. Actually, for a little while, yeah, I did. But that didn't last long. And, what you call it? And nowadays, sometimes, every once in a while, I will say, like, I think that's bad. Like, basically, those kind of arguments. But I think that has a role, too. And also, I won't say that's bad. I say I think that's bad. What else? Oh yeah, I was gonna say, so, also another reason to have rules is they mitigate against destructive behavior. Certain things that, on net balance, if everyone did, they would, lead to lower production or lower standard of living, things like that. So for example, some people will say the gun control stuff, so that's not a good rule to have. Because, lets criminals have guns and everyone else not having them. In a free society, I imagine that would be a little less of an issue, but who knows, might still be one. What else did I want to say? Oh, I wanted to say, so my view on rights, and it's the same as on morals, and it's the same on rules, because I basically think they're all the same thing. Rights and rules and morals are basically the same thing, it's just that they're applied differently. So rights are supposed to be what everyone has, about rules concerning the way they interact and stuff like that, the way humans interact. Morals can, in certain cases, I think what makes morals unique is that they're mainly applied to oneself, or at least that's how I view it. Some people will say, like, oh no, for you to do this, yes, that's immoral. Like, yes, I think, people use it that way, but I think a lot of times, even if they don't do that, because let's face it, a lot of people, even if they think something's bad, they're not going to actually go out themselves and stop someone from doing that thing, So effectively, it becomes just a set of rules that they are going to follow for themselves. And then, and rules, that's the broadest category, right? So you can have rules for yourself, rules for other people, rules for how people to settle arguments and stuff like that. But yeah, I kind of view them all in this way. They're trying to make this analogy I made recently, like a Rubik's Cube. I'm not sure that's a strong analogy. I just know that that's how I picture it in my head. So, there's like a system is all one color, but you can like borrow and move it around, and and you have to make the Rubik's Cube till you have a coherent system, right? But that's kind of how we have rules. It's, not all rules go together so well. They cause problems when you have both of them together. Certain rules will have certain downsides, and I shouldn't even say downsides. They have certain costs, right? According to people's subjective preferences, and some of them have benefits according to certain people's subjective preferences. And so, you can kind of move them around, and I really like economics because what it teaches you to look at, I guess, is the effect of those rules, and it's like, that's something that I think is very valuable. And so you can, switch around these rules, and then you see the different effects that you can expect. And the goal is, of course, to get the best set of rules. But you have to be able to change rules in order for that to happen. Just for anyone else listening to the video, I just think that's very important. Anyways. Another way I kind of look at it is like a kaleidoscope in a way. Like, there's certain rules, like, part of the problem is how rules interact, and knowing which rules are in play, and all of that. Otherwise you might, ascribe a certain outcome to a certain rule when it was really, the result of that rule interacting with another rule. Like, for example, just an application here. In Glass-Steagall, the reason that was put in place was because of the increased risk banks were engaging in after federal deposit insurance was created. So the Glass-Steagall was a regulation in response to a problem caused by a previous regulation. So, and some people said when you got rid of Glass-Steagall, oh, that was a problem, deregulation is bad, that kind of stuff. We're like, no, it's these different rules that are interacting. And so that's why I kind of like most recently look at it like it's kind of like a kaleidoscope sometimes. It's like take a little twist of the whatever kaleidoscope, and it's like not everything just moves to the right or moves to the left. It's like all sorts of changes. And I think that's just really cool. I'm just kind of saying like whatever's on my mind, or it came to my mind when I was watching your video. It's not necessarily meant as like, any particular thing. It's kind of just my thoughts. What else? Oh yeah, you also mentioned capitalism, and that you used to believe that you'd still support capitalism even if, I guess we're worse off. Is that what? I don't even remember. I'm sorry, but I think that's what you're saying. And because you had the individual rights stuff. Oh, this stuff's called Zevia. It's cola sweetened with stevia. It's pretty tasty. Well, not really. It's not really bad. It's not great either. Yeah. It's nice. I was thirsty, so I need a drink. Anyways. Oh yeah. So, I think the way I really have come at, or to be where I'm at right now in libertarianism is, I think it's more important to be libertarian than capitalist, and I think that that's the main thing, and whatever works the best, people will use, whatever fits them the best, rather, I should say, because who knows, maybe certain socialist societies will have certain benefits that certain capitalist societies don't, and vice versa. Maybe it'll be a trade-off, just like many things in life. I'm more concerned with people at least being free to be able to choose between those, and in reality, who knows? Maybe someone living in a socialist town or whatever, they every weekend go visit the capitalist town and buy shoes or something. Who knows? And so, for me, I always, or the reason I did, start supporting, capitalism, I guess I say capitalism now, was because I was concerned about how to help those worst off, and that's one of the main reasons why I got so interested in economics. For a while I stopped learning about it, and then, once the Ron Paul campaign came during 2008, that got me interested in economics again, and so I started learning about it. Anyways, yeah, and so I guess I came at it first that way, actually came at capitalism because of my concern about living standards, and I was like, oh, this benefits living standards, we should support it. Excuse me. And then later, actually, is when I started hearing about like rights stuff, like at the Mises.org website and stuff like that. And then I was like, oh yeah, I do like it, because it did appeal to a lot of values I had that I didn't know other people also held. And then later, eventually I got kind of over that. I don't want to say over it, but I moved on past. I still, think rights are useful. I don't think rights objectively exist. They exist only if they're enforced. That's my view on rights, whether they actually exist or not. But I, of course, think we should have rights. Right? We should have positive rights. Sorry, not positive rights. Freudian slip. We should have negative rights, but I also believe we should have positive liberty. I don't like the idea of positive rights, but I do think positive liberty is something that should be addressed, and that's one thing I do like about left libertarians, although that that term is so broad these days. Anyways, yeah, and so that's also why my view now is like, well, now that Elinor Ostrom, the Nobel Prize laureate, did work on case studies where there was actually good management of common pool resources, and so the thing was to have the rules, have the people who live there and use the resource to have a say in the rules. And when you did that, this is one thing that's hilarious. Of course, neoclassical economics, right? They got to 92% of optimal. So I just think that's kind of funny. That they're like, oh, they have a precise number on how close it was to optimal. Sorry, I'm a dork. But that just goes to show that they actually did pretty good in managing these resources. And so my views has really always been, I just don't really think that in most cases socialism will work, but I don't, it's no skin off my teeth if it does, and if it does for certain things, I'll be like, no, that's good. I'll be like, first one to support that, because I support what's good for living standards. Anyways, this kind of also reminded me of a part of Carl Menger's book. I have his book here. It's called Investigations into the Method of the Social Sciences, with special reference to economics. And I was just also thinking, well, you'll see. I'll read the quote, and you'll see how similar it is to my view on like rules and morals and stuff like that, and rights. Right. Let me just disclaimer. It's a pretty long quote, guys, but it's pretty good. Right. Among human efforts, those which are aimed at the anticipation and provision of material, economic needs are by far the most common and most important. In the same way, among human impulses, that which impels each individual to strive for his well-being is by far the most common and most powerful. A theory which would teach us to what crystallizations of human activity and what forms of human phenomena action oriented to the provision of material needs leads on the assumption of the free play of that powerful economic impulse, uninfluenced by other impulses and other considerations, particularly error or ignorance. A theory especially which would teach us what quantitative effects would be produced by a definite quantity of the influence in question. Such a theory simply must provide us with a certain understanding. It cannot provide understanding of human phenomena in their totality, or a concrete portion thereof, but it can provide understanding of one of the most important sides of human life. The exact theory, quote, the exact theory of political economy is a theory of this kind, a theory which teaches us to follow and understand in an exact way the manifestations of human self-interest in the efforts of economic humans aimed at the provision of their material needs. It is thus a theory which does not have the task of teaching us to understand generally and in their totality social phenomena or even human phenomena, indeed not even those social phenomena which are commonly called economic. It has only the task of affording us the understanding of a special side of human life, to be sure the most important, the economic. On the other hand, the understanding of the remaining sides of it could only be attained by other theories, which would make us aware of the formations of human life from the point of view of the remaining propensities, e.g., from the point of view of public spirit, or of the strict sway of the ideal of justice, etc. So yeah, I thought that's so awesome when I was reading it. So, the way I like to picture it is like having different lenses, it's like economics shows us to look at things from this angle, from this perspective, with this lens, right? You can take that off and you may have sociology, and that's that lens. Take that off, have biology, take that off physics, blah, 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 and so on. And really we only understand the universe or the whole world and all of its aspects when we have all of the lenses, from all disciplines, anthropology, sociology, economics, psychology, and things like that. When you're talking about things that that a lot of people here on YouTube, I guess, talk about in the libertarian community, how society will look and stuff like that. But yeah, that's kind of my view also with the morals and maybe even with the whole system of morals. I'm not sure. But it's like you'll have certain concerns. Well, this moral addresses this set of concerns. This moral addresses this set of concerns. But sometimes they might clash in certain situations, and then we have to find some sort of balance. Anyways, that's basically all my thoughts that I had there. And again, thank you for your excellent video, for inspiring this video. Hopefully this wasn't too boring. I know I've kind of rambled on over and over, but that's all I had to say.